yesterday I was trying to give one overview, a walkthrough of how you try to log into SAP application, what are going to be the screens we're having, who will be working on which screen. So whenever you're trying to work on SAP, please remember there are going to be two screens. One we call it as front-end application, second one back-end application. So back-end application name, we call it as display IMG screen. Front-end application name, we call it as SAP Easy Access screen. And this SAP Easy Access screen will be under the control of end users. Display IMG screen will be under the control of consultants. So if you want to build SAP application, it is going to be done on display IMG screen backend. And if you want to record transactions, it will be performed on SAP Easy Access screen front end. So who will be responsible for what? Designing, development, building activities are going to be taken care by the consultant. Maintenance of transaction data, maintenance of master data is going to be activity of end users. So end users will be responsible for data entry job. They need to make sure the data is going to be updated in the SAP application. Now, for example, if a business is using SAP, so let's say we have Bajaj Electronics. If Bajaj Electronics is using SAP software, so whenever customer places an order, they need to make sure that order transaction is recorded in SAP application. And that activity is going to be taken care by the end users. They try to feed the data. They try to feed the data into SAP. If end user need to use SAP application, consultant need to build the application from the backend. Okay, so without developing the application, end user cannot use the application for recording the transactions. And I was trying to give a walkthrough how you need to get into the application, where exactly you need to work, and how you are going to be finding the technical details of the system. So once you are provided with any SAP system, you must be in a position to identify what is the name of the application, what is the name of the database. So whatever activities you do in the application will be stored in the database. All your data will be updated in the database. And the name of the database, we call it as HANA. Name of the application, we call it as S4HANA. So please remember, S4HANA is different and HANA is different. Both of them are not the same. Now, coming down to the next one. So today we try to start working out with the first chapter of sales and distribution module. We try to get into it. We try to explore what exactly we need to learn and how it's going to be working as well. As I mentioned earlier, when we try to talk about the sales and distribution, we are going to be dealing with sales process and we are going to be working out with logistics. We need to make sure the product is going to be delivered to the customer on time. And what exactly we are going to be looking after, we need to understand process flows. In sales and distribution, you are going to be having different process flows, business, different processes. And we are trying to learn sales cycle. So how the sales cycle is going to be recorded. Okay. And the sales cycle recording is an example of transaction data. This is an example of transaction data. Now, for example, creation of sales order. So for the sales order, we need to deliver the stock, deliver the products. And once we deliver the products, we need to create a billing
ये
document.
हम लोग कॉल तो रिकॉर्ड नहीं हुआ है
And for this
नहीं नहीं
particular
कॉल
billing
रिकॉर्ड नहीं
document,
होगा
we need to go for collection of the
दिस
payments,
इज
which
गोइंग टू
we
बी
call it
रिकॉर्ड
as incoming payments. Okay, so this is an example of transaction data. Please remember that. So if you want this transaction data need to be recorded. Now, what is the prerequisite for that? Now, to record transaction data, we require master data. So that is going to be the dependencies what you need to know. So if you want to record transaction data, you need to have master data updated in the system. No master data, no transaction data. So without creating a customer record, without creating a material record, material information should be available in SAP system. What is the product you're going to be selling it, size and dimensions of the product, price of the product, all that values need to be updated. Who is the customer who's trying to place an order? So customer name, address, GST registration number, customer bank details, everything need to be updated in the system. If this master data existence is not there, transaction data recording is not going to be done. Okay, so end user is the one who will be working out with transaction data recording and master data recording. It is going to be the job role of end users who will be doing this activity. If end user need to record transaction data, if end user need to record master data, we need to configure the system. That is what we try to call it as configuration data. This is nothing but configure SAP application based on business requirement. How business want the software need to be used according to their business process, we need to build the system. So configuration data is going to be handled by consultants. Configuration data will be handled by consultants. So these are all the naming conventions what you need to know. What are going to be the different set of data we are going to be working? One, transaction data. Second, master data. Third, configuration data. And who will be responsible for what? End users will be responsible for maintenance of master data and transaction data. Configuration data will be handled by the consultants. And that is what we are going to be performing from today's class. So first we are going to be developing the system. And once we develop the system, we try to record transaction data, we try to record master data, and we try to check the output of it. Now, the first chapter, what we are going to be learning is going to be called as enterprise structure. So before you try to work with master data or transaction data, we need to make sure company's enterprise structure, or you can call it as organization structure, need to be created. Without this, you cannot work with the things. Company's enterprise structure or company's org structure need to be fully designed. You need to know the departments, you need to know the modules, you need to know the organizational units. So we are going to be understanding the terminologies used for the organizational units. What is the term used? What that particular term represent and how it is going to be working it out. Now, I'm trying to take an example over here. So let's say we have a business, or you can call it as a company. Okay, so business who want to use SAP, we call it as a business, or you can call it as company. But in SAP terms, we are going to be calling it as company itself, or we call it as client. This is the terminology what we use in SAP. This is our general usage. General usage. So we have a lot of manufacturing companies which are using SAP application. We are using, there are a lot of trading companies which are using SAP application. We are having service-oriented companies which are using SAP application. All that will be represented as company in SAP. Now, for example, we have Tata. Tata is using SAP. Reliance is using SAP. Bajaj is using SAP. Sun Pharma is using SAP. We have DMart Supermarket, which is using SAP. Airtel is using SAP. BMW, Audi company. All these companies, we are going to be calling it as company over here in SAP terms. Now, what is the role of this company? They are going to be responsible for allocation of budget for SAP implementation. How much money need to be spent on SAP? How that software need to be built? It is going to be company who will be deciding it. So they are going to be responsible for allocation of budget. And that is the reason we try to call them as decision makers. So according to their business requirement, we are going to be building the software. If they're not happy with the development, what we have done, they can even scrap the project as well. So they play a very important role. So this is one thing you need to be aware of. What is the role of a company? So they are going to be responsible for allocating the budget. So whether the cost of the implementation is going to be 10 CR, 100 CR, 200 CR, it is going to be company who will be deciding it. Okay. I'm trying to take an example over here. Now, for example, if you try to take Tata, Tata is acting as a company and Tata is running multiple business. Tata is running multiple business. We know that. So I'm naming some of the business what Tata is running. So one on the name of Tata Motors, second one Tata Steel, Tata Chroma, then we have Tata Infrastructure, Tata Hotels, then we have FMCG, they have their Airways, Air India, Tanishq, then we have TCS. These are all different business what Tata is trying to run. It's not that Tata is running one single business, they are running multiple business. So obviously capital investment will be different. Now let's say Tata is spending almost around 5,000 CR on this business. On Tata Motors, they are trying to spend around 15,000 CR. On Tata Steel, they are trying to spend 7,000 CR. So let's say investment is different, revenue generation will be different, profit and loss will be different, sales process will be different, production process will be different. Then how you are going to be mapping it? So first we need to know that for which line of business Tata want SAP need to be implemented. That is what you need to understand it. One company can run multiple business. So each business we try to map in SAP on the name company code. Each business we are going to be mapping into SAP on the name company code. One company can run multiple business. So each business we are going to be calling it as company code. Remember that. Because investment will be different, revenue generation will be different, profit and loss will be different, sales process will be different, production units are going to be different. So each business we are going to be mapping it as a company code. Now what information this company code is going to be providing us? Very simple, balance sheet. This balance sheet is nothing but profit and loss statement. There's nothing but profit and loss statement. By investing a capital amount on a particular business, how much revenue we made, how much loss we made in a financial year, that information will be provided by this particular company code. This is one thing you need to know. And when you're going to be preparing this particular balance sheet, when all payments are going to be recorded. So company will be using SAP application for storing all the payment transactions, all incoming payments, all outgoing payments. So if you keep a record of all the payments, we can prepare a balance sheet. And with the help of that balance sheet, we can come to know whether the company is in profit or company is in loss in a financial year. Okay, so please remember that one company can run multiple business, so each business will be called as a company code. Now, this is one way of mapping it. Now, for example, if you try to take LG company, LG, we are trying to name it as company, and LG is running the business again in different geographical location. So they are running the business in India, in USA, in North Korea, in South Korea, in China, in Australia, at different locations they are trying to run the business. So based on this geographical location also, you can call it as a company code. Because again, if I need to run a business in a particular geographical location, we need to get the permissions from that government. If I don't get a permission, it is not going to be possible for me to run the business. Again, capital investment will be different. Product manufactured, product sold are going to be different. So that is the reason, based on geographical location, we can call it as company code. Again, company want to know how much revenue they made by selling the product in India, in USA, in UK. So for that reason, based on geographical location, you can call it as a company code. If you're running the business at different geographical locations. Now, who will be responsible for doing this activity in the system? It is going to be basically your FI consultants who will be responsible for that. So FI consultants are going to be responsible for it. Now, not all steps are going to be taken care by SD department. So you're going to be finding different consultant doing different roles. So FI consultant will be responsible for creation of company and creation of company code in SAP application. Okay, so remember that. So each consultant will be having a restriction what activities need to be performed. Now, next one. Now, now, for example, I'm trying to take a company for which we try to do the implementation. So we try to call it as a business model. So I'm just trying to take an example over here for which business model we are going to be implementing SAP. And until the course is going to be completed, we stick with that particular business model itself and we try to run the show. We try to run multiple cycles as well for that. So here I'm trying to work out with a business model and I'm trying to take a business called as Bajaj Electronics. And we call this Bajaj Electronics as a manufacturing company. And you can also call this one as a trading company. They manufacture their products, they sell it in the market. At the same time, they buy from different companies and sell it in the market. Okay, so they buy electronic goods from Sony, from LG, from Apple, from Lenovo, and they offer it to the customer. Apart from that, they have their own products, they manufacture it and they sell it. So let's say this Bajaj Electronics want to use SAP application. So we build SAP application for Bajaj Electronics. This is what we are going to be looking after. Bajaj Electronics want to store all that particular transactions done in the business. So that is the reason they are trying to look for an ERP application. So they want to use SAP application for that. So what this Bajaj Electronics will be doing, they try to pick an implementation partner who can provide the services. Who can provide the service. Okay, so here I'm just trying to get into it. Like, let's say if Bajaj Electronics want to use SAP application, they try to choose an implementation partner who will be providing the services. So let's say this particular project has been backed by Infosys. So what this Infosys will be doing, this Infosys is going to be building the software. So Infosys will build SAP application based on Bajaj Electronics requirement. Yeah, we need to create a roadmap. That's fine. We need to create a roadmap of the things are going to be working. That is going to be part of the implementation project. Okay, now see, so this is what happens. Now let's say this particular project has been backed by Infosys. Infosys will be building SAP application to make sure all master data, all transaction data is going to be recorded for Bajaj Electronics. Now what Infosys will be doing, they will be deploying project team. You will be having a project manager. There will be consultants working under that. So you are going to be part of this particular project team where you are going to be involved in the project, where you are going to be responsible for doing the configurations. So this is what we call it as configuration data. We are going to be start building the application. And this enterprise structure configuration, what we are trying to learn now, it is going to be handled by the consultants. This is totally handled by consultants. This is not going to be part of end user job role. This is going to be handled by the consultants. So different consultants are going to be part of this enterprise structure configuration and they start building the application. So FI consultants are going to be responsible to perform these two steps. At the same time, sales consultant will be doing different activities as well. See, for example, so once you know how this company and company code are going to be working, now what exactly sales team is going to be doing. So if company want to sell any particular product, every business will be having a sales department. The sales department is what in SAP terms, we are going to be calling it as sales organization. There's a naming convention, we use it. We are not going to be calling it as sales department. In SAP terms, we call it as sales org. And the sales org is going to be responsible to sell the products of a business. Whatever products company want to sell, sales org is going to be responsible for selling that particular products. Simple thing. Sales department is what in SAP terms we call it as sales org, and they are going to be responsible for selling the products. And apart from that, they are going to be responsible to provide service after sales. After sales, if you want to provide any kind of service, it is going to be handled by sales org. And who will be responsible for it? SD consultants are going to be responsible for creating of this particular sales organizations. So how many sales organizations are required for the business? In most of the cases, now for example, if you are trying to run your sales in India, so you require only one sales org where we try to create it on the name of domestic sales. Or if you are trying to sell the product in India as well as in abroad, so we are going to be creating two sales organizations. One will be taking care of domestic sales, another one will be taking care of foreign trade. This is one option. Now we have another approach. So I'm going to be dividing India into 4 zones and I'm going to be mapping it. So let's say you're going to be having one sales org which will be taking care of North, South, West, and East. Like that, we can have 4 sales organizations. Or state-wise. State-wise, if you want to know how much sale has been done, you can map it. So this is what as an LC consultant, you need to analyze. You need to sit with the business. You need to study how they want their reports need to be generated. They want that report need to be generated based on state specific, based on zone specific, based on country specific. Based on that, you're going to be triggering how many sales organizations are required. If business want to sell any particular product, we require a sales org. Remember that. And if you want to sell a product, we require customers. So every company will be having their own set of customers. Few customers will be called as wholesaler. Few customers will be named as retailer. Few customers will be called as bulk buyer. We have dealer, we have stockist. Okay, like this, you are going to be having different set of customers over here. You're going to be finding different set of customers. Remember that. You're going to be classifying your customers under wholesaler, under retailer, under bulk buyer, or a dealer, or a stockist. And for all the customers, selling price will be not same. Discount offered is not same. Payment terms will be not same. Credit limit will be not same. Delivery terms will be not same. So this is the next thing what you need to do. You're going to be mapping them as what? On a term called as distribution channel. So each group of customers, we are going to be calling them as distribution channel. So this is nothing but channel through which saleable material reaches the customer. Channel through which saleable material reaches the customer, we call it as distribution channels. So please do remember, for different types of customers, selling price, discounts, delivery terms, payment terms are going to be different. So each group of customer, we call it as distribution channel. Again, this is going to be activity of an NSC consultant. We are going to be creating it. And to these customers, we are going to be selling product lines. Every company will be having their own set of products what need to be sold. Now, for example, I'm just trying to show you the business model of Bajaj over here. If you try to take Bajaj Electronics, so they run the business in India and they try to sell different range of products over here. So they try to sell mobiles, laptops, tabs, at the same time, televisions, home appliances. These are all product lines. These are all product lines. These are all the products what this particular company is offering it to the customers. So all these product lines are what we are going to be calling it as what? Divisions. In SAP terms, these product lines will be called as divisions. Now, for example, TV will be taken up as one division. Mobiles as will be taken as one division. Washing machine will be taken as one division. Laptops as one division. So this divisions are nothing but group of collection of products. Group of collection of products, we are going to be calling it as division. Okay, so each product line will be classified. Now these divisions are going to be created by consultants. Now you need to know each consultant will be having a specific job role which need to be done. So this is going to be done by division creations. Now in the same way, now if you try to talk about Bajaj, they're having different stores from where they try to sell the product. So if you try to click on the store locator, now there are multiple stores based on city specific. Now, for example, if I try to take Telangana region, and you can see, I'm just trying to pick up Hyderabad, try to click on search. So they're having different stores from where they try to operate their business. These are all company owned stores from where they try to sell the product. So as a customer, we walk down to that particular store, we take a demo of the product, we inquire about a product. If we like the product, we do the price negotiations and we purchase it. So these stores, you call them as company stores or company outlets or company branch offices. That is what the naming convention we use. So this company stores, outlet, branch offices, everything in SAP, we are going to be calling them as sales office. This is the term. Where sales office is nothing but point of contact between customer and company. point of contact between customer and the company. If you want to purchase a product, you visit a store and you place an order. So we try to call it as physical geographical location. We call it as a physical geographical location where you're going to be having sales reps who will be giving you a demonstration. You can feel the product and you can place an order. So all these stores owned by the business, all these stores owned by the business, we are going to be calling it as sales office. So all these sales office are going to be created by SD consultant. Now, who will be creating it? So you sit with the business, you collect that data, you update that information into the system. Okay. Like this, you are going to be having different terminologies, what you need to learn, understand, what is the importance of it, and how it need to be created as well. Now, for example, another one. So we have production units. So if company want to manufacture the product, you're going to be having production units, or you can call it as factories. You can call it as manufacturing unit. So company, production units, factories, manufacturing units, all these things in SAP, we are going to be calling it as plants. Okay, company, production unit, factory or manufacturing unit, where you will be having all machinery installed and we change the status of the material from raw material to semi-finished, from semi-finished to finished product. So company-owned factories, production units, manufacturing units, we are going to be calling it as plant. Instead of calling it as factory, we are trying to name it as a plant. Simple, that's it. Only naming convention is getting changed, but process followed will be same. So in the plant, what we do, production activities will be carried out. We manufacture the product. And apart from that, we are going to be storing the product. So inventory management activities are going to be done. We try to maintain the stock levels as well. We are going to be using this particular location for storing. We store the materials. We store raw materials, semi-finished product, finished product. Whatever stock company want to store, it will be done in the plant. Now, who will be creating this particular plans? Consultants are going to be responsible for creating it. But as a LC consultant, you need to know, because if you want to deliver the stock will be sent from where? From these, from plant itself. So you need to know what this particular plant term represent and how it will be operated. Okay. So these are certain terminologies what you need to know. And these things are what we are going to be configuring in the system. We try to maintain the data. So that is the reason we are going to be taking up a client called as Bajaj Electronics, for which we are going to be doing the implementation and we try to work on that. So let me try to start doing the configuration on the system. Practically also, we are going to be start working out from today and we are going to be working every day with Bajaj Electronics and we try to map the process as well. Now see, so I'm just trying to log into the system over here. If you don't have the access for the system, make sure you get access today and start working it out. I'm just trying to log into it. So this page is what we try to call it as a welcome page. Try to maintain the username, maintain the password, login, and try to run a transaction code called as SIMG to get into the backend application. Straight away, I'm trying to work with S4HANA itself. We're not dealing with ECC. We are trying to work with S4HANA. So entire configuration will be explained on S4HANA application itself. Later, I'm going to be explaining the differences between ECC and S4HANA. I don't want you people to get trained on ECC, then getting into S4HANA. That is waste of time. If you get used to this particular S4HANA application, understanding the previous version is going to be more easy. Now, first run transaction code SIMG so that you can get into the backend application. This page is what we try to call it as display IMG screen. Please contact your counselors or the system administrator, point of contact, whoever it may be, to provide you the server access. They can do that for you, please. Now, see, in this particular page, you need to get into enterprise structure. This is the first step, what we try to deal with. And there is a documentation available. So if you want to know what this enterprise structure represent, you can click on this particular documentation. You can read that notes, get to know what this term represent. Now, close this one. If you want to get into the details, expand it. These are nothing but we call it as notes. You need to expand the notes if you want to get into the details. And your total enterprise structure is going to be divided into two parts. First part, we call it as definition. Second part, we call it as assignments. Okay, so please remember you're going to be having two parts to deal with. Part one, we call it as definitions. When we try to talk about definitions, we are going to be defining organizational units. You're going to be creating company code, plan, sales org, distribution channel, divisions, everything under this particular step. Then we are going to be working with part two, where we try to call it as assignments, where we try to assign organizational units. We tell the system which organizational units belongs to what. So for that reason, we are dealing with part one. Once we complete part one, we work with part two. So that is the reason we are trying to get into definitions over here. And when you try to expand this particular definitions, you're going to be finding the models. So as an SD consultant, you're going to be working under sales and distribution model itself. You're not going to be part of finance, controlling, or material management or LE. We work under sales and distribution model itself. But right now in our class, we don't have an FI or an MM consultant to do the configuration. We are learning how to do that from finance model. So what steps are required for SD integration with different models? We are trying to learn that particular stuff as well. So without creating a company, without creating a company code, we cannot create a sales org, because you need to tell the system the sales org belongs to which business. So that is the reason the configuration will be starting from financial accounting model. And when you expand this financial accounting, so if you want to know what is the role of a finance, what they handle, again, there is a documentation available. You can hit the documentation, get to know the notes, what they are going to be taking care of. They take care of GL accounting, they take care of account receivables, account payables, that is what they do. Now see, so if you try to expand this financial accounting, these are all going to be what we try to call it as organizational units. We are having different organizational units. We are not going to be creating all of it. What things are required for SD integration, only those we are going to be looking after. So under all these steps, we are going to be learning how to create a company, how to create a company code as of now. As of now. Now, I'm dealing with the first step, define company. So when you double click on it, this particular screen will be not getting open. If you want to get in, you need to click on this icon, timer icon. These are what we try to call it as IMG activities. So try to click on this timer icon. This will be taking us to the details. This is how the page is going to be looking. So each company is going to be represented by a code. The length of the code is going to be varied for different organizational units. For few, it is going to be 4 letters. For few, it is going to be 5 letters. Like that, it's going to be working. But what is the maximum length as a code for company? 6 letters. Your length cannot exceed more than 6 letters. If you want to maintain 2 letters, 4 letters, it will be accepted. But length cannot exceed more than 6 letters. Now, right now we are working out on a demos application. So you're finding number of entries maintained up in this particular page. You're finding number of entries maintained up in this particular page over here. But in the real time, for which business you are implementing SAP, only that business values are going to be shown up. You're not going to be finding the rest. For which business you want SAP need to be implemented, only that business values will be shown up. Now see, you have an option called as new interest. So if you want to create a company, you need to click on it. So click on new interest icon, a new page, or you can call it as a screen, will be opened. That's how the screen will be looking. So here we need to fill in the data. These values are what you need to collect it from the business. So as a consultant, you sit with Bajaj Electronics, ask the data, collect that data, and update that information in the system. And these are what we call them as fields. In these fields, we are going to be updating the values. So starting with the first field, we need to maintain a code. So each organizational unit, what we try to create is going to be represented by a code. So let's say I'm trying to call it as BJE. And here I'm trying to maintain the description Bajaj Electronics Limited. If name of the company is long, you can use this particular field for that. And you need to update the address. So I'm just trying to maintain some information, some dummy values I'm trying to maintain in each and every field over here. Postal code, city, country. So in case if you don't know the code for any particular country, you can click on this particular icon, which we call it as match code. So click on it. So list of codes will be getting displayed. For which country, what is the code user? We can select from this drop down list. So here I'm trying to maintain it as IN over here. What is the language key? EN. EN represent English. Currency of transaction, INR. So if you don't know the code for any particular currency, click on it. So list of currencies are going to be shown up. Yeah, you're true. These values need to be provided by the business. If we don't get these values from the business, we cannot maintain the information. So maintain the values. As much data you can capture, maintain everything. And try to click on save. Try to click on save. Then only it will be updated in the database. We are storing this information in the application. So try to click on the save icon. You are going to be getting a request. This is the most important one. We call this as transport request. Yeah, first step, it should be creating a company. So we try to call it as transport request. Now, what is the usage of this transport request? If you want to move the data from one SAP system to another SAP system. You're going to be moving it with the help of this particular transport request itself. If you want to move the data from server to server, or if you want to move the data from client to client, you're going to be taking the help of transport request. So server to server, for example, if you want to move the data from development system to quality system, from quality system to production system. Client to client, now right now we are working out with 220 client. Now where do you find that one? So once you log in, you're going to be finding this one. This is the client system number. So if you want to move the data from 220 client to 221 client, or if you want to move the data to 222 client, what is required? Transport request is required for that. So there are going to be basically two types of transport requests to work. They are going to be finding two types of transport requests to work. One, we try to call it as customization request. And second, we call it as workbench request. One, we call it as customization request. Second, workbench request. Now, when you're trying to work on enterprise structure, data is going to be getting updated in a customization request. So if you want to know what values will be stored under customization under workbench, as we go on, you will be able to get to know that. As of now, remember your entire enterprise structure configuration will be updated under customizing request. So this is a request number. This is a description of the request. Now I can't use this particular request for storing our Bajaj electronics. So I need to create a new request for that. So this is the icon to create a new request. Create request icon, a new page symbol. So when you click on it, a new window will be getting displayed. Request numbers are going to be getting popped up. These request numbers are going to be getting popped up automatically, where your basis team is going to be maintaining all that requests. Your job is nothing but to maintain a description for the request. So here I'm just trying to name that particular request as BJE enterprise structure. I'm using this particular request to store the entire enterprise structure. And you can find who is the person who is trying to create this request, in which client we are dealing with that, at what time, everything will be there over here. So try to save this one. So you need to click on save, then only it will be created. So this is a new request number. This is a description of the request. Just how it's going to be working. So your total enterprise structure, what we do is going to be getting updated in this particular request. So just try to click on continue option over here. So we have created a request in which we want our data need to be stored. Click on continue. We got this particular message. Data was saved and company has been created on what name? BJE. So if you want to do any kind of changes to this particular code, it is not going to be possible. Once you have created, if you want to do any kind of changes, it is not going to be possible. If you want to do any kind of changes to these values, you can do that. All these particular fields are in editable mode. Is how it works out. And if you want to exit from this particular page, there's the option exit. So click on exit. Done. Again, if you want to log in, click on define company. We have this one. And if you want to search where exactly our entry has been updated, you can take the help of position icon. So click on this position icon, enter the company code which we have created. Click on continue, and this will be taking us to that particular location. And if you want to check out the values maintained for this entry, select that company, get into details. And once you try to click on this details icon, you're going to be finding the values maintained for that. This is how it is going to be working. So this is going to be the first step, what you need to create. And if you want to come back, click on this back option. Back option, once again, you will be exited. So once you do any configuration in the system, please try to make a note of it. So under financial accounting module, so we have created first one on name of company, and the code we maintain was BJE. Now, if I'm trying to work out with Bajaj Electronics, you people work with other company. Don't build SAP for Bajaj Electronics only once again. Use another manufacturing company and start working on it so that you can work on two different projects. One for Bajaj Electronics, one for another project. And this data, what you're trying to build, is what we try to call it as configuration data. Please remember, we are trying to work out with configuration data backend. Okay, this is an example of configuration. So in interviews, if they ask, as an SD consultant, what all configurations you have done in the system? So this would be an answer for that. Enterprise structure is an example of configuration data. So I'm just trying to maintain it over here somewhere. Configuration data. There's the one what you have worked on, what you're trying to work as of now. So enterprise structure is an example of configuration data. I'm just trying to highlight this one because you need to know the differences as well. Now, in the same way, we need to go for creation of company code. That is going to be the second step. So tomorrow I'm going to be starting from here. So I'm going to be showing you how to create a company code, how to create a sales org, distribution channel, division, sales office, plant. We keep on working and we try to get into the subject. So practically our configuration has been started up today. So please make sure once class is done, try to get some server access, contact your system administrators if you have not received it as of now, and start working out with the configurations. Take a business model which you are very comfortable in and try to work on it. And I'm going to be sharing some notes as well. So I'm just trying to share it. I'm just trying to show you. So how it will be looking. Everything will be maintained with the help of screenshots. So I'm going to be sharing all this particular material. So where you need to go, what data need to be maintained. So everything has been prepared with the help of screenshots. So you can go through it, you can work on it. So you will be given access for the class recordings. You will be given access for the all this particular documentations. So you will be having entire knowledge. And I'm going to be sharing this particular Excel sheet, what I'm trying to use it as well. And this is how your class recordings are going to be uploaded. I need Google Drive access. So I need your email addresses where I can share you all the recordings. All recordings are going to be updated in the drive. So I require at least 15 GB of space from your end. So if you don't use your personal account, try to share me a new Gmail account, what you created, so that I will be sharing all the recordings in the drive. So here, whatever classes will be done, all classes are going to be updated in the drive from day one. So how you need to follow? You need to look into the class numbers, dates, the topic on which we are working, and you can come to know that. This is an example what I'm trying to share it. So how many classes will be done? All that particular classes are going to be put down in the drive